What up, fam? I am Dr. De Luna, your favorite spicy doctor, educator, and yogi. Today, I have on Torie Borrelli Hall. She is one of my favorite humans, without a doubt in my mind. So you are going to learn a little bit about our love story, how we met, and we are going to take a deep dive into miscarriage and all the things that can impact health and fertility that are going on in the background. You are not going to want to miss this episode. It is filled with truth bombs, knowledge bombs, and just spicy love. Tune on in. Hi, Torie.
Hi.
It's surreal that I'm sitting across this table looking at your gorgeous face and that you're on this podcast.
And that you have a podcast.
And that I have a podcast and that I'm sorry for all of my future guests, but she's my favorite guest. I already know.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
no pressure or anything.
No pressure. Just you being yourself is one of my favorite versions of human. So there's no pressure, truly. Just keep being yourself and you will reach that goal in my heart and in my mind every day. And how I always start this podcast, even though I was already showering you in love, is to shower you in even more love with a love bomb. So, sweet Torie, you changed my life. You changed my life from the moment I met you. You changed my life before I even met you, because I met Josh, your husband, Josh Hall. He's an amazing surfboard shaper. That's what it's called, a shaper. And it was at a surf competition, and I'll go up and talk to anyone about anything. And I did not know that Josh was who he was in the community. And I was just talking about my background with health and how I was getting into naturopathic medical school. And he's like, oh, you need to connect with my girlfriend. You were just his girlfriend back then. And he gave me your card. It's your same logo.
Same card.
And it was so colorful and bright, and just the energy behind it. I loved it. I put it in my wallet. I don't hold on to things like that. But somehow this card traveled with me throughout my life. It traveled all over the world with me in my wallet. It traveled to different houses that I moved into, and I would put it in my little just random box that we all have. And then you reached out to me because you went through something that we're going to talk about. You went through a miscarriage. And right when you reached out, I saw at the bottom of your email that logo, and I got full body chills. It was just exquisitely exciting that I was finally connecting with you. And it was so interesting that the universe connected us in that way, because I met you in the darkest period of my life, without a doubt. And you were also in a challenging period.
Totally.
And even in that darkness, you were such a light in my life, and you were so supportive. And I think the reason why I love you the most is because you are unapologetically yourself. You might be spicier than I am. You really might be, queen.
Yeah, we might be tied.
Yeah, we might be tied, which is an honor. And I love your family. I love you. And I am just so grateful to have you in my life. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I might cry.
Oh, I'm going to cry. I already warned my producer that I will be crying during this episode because of the love that I have for you.
Lots of love.
So much love. So my babe, just because the people viewing might not be as obsessed with you as I am, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do?
Okay. Where should I start?
Anywhere you want.
All right. So my name is Torie Hall, and I'm a holistic nutritionist, a chef, and an author of a cookbook. And I started my health journey from a really young age. I always had issues. And those issues have led me to be able to help a lot of people. So starting out with just like typical gut stuff, right? That's what we call them nowadays. And, being an athlete, being someone that was really active, it was always really challenging, but I was told over and over again by so many Western doctors that my labs looked normal. You are normal. You are a athlete. You just need to, keep doing what you're doing. Keep eating things that inflame you. Keep, here's a pill if you want to fix your gut stuff, and I just kept getting told over and over again that, medication is the only answer. And I knew deep down that there were other answers. And so I started to dig deep, and I just was kind of always been a little geeky. And so I love to just like read and research. And I come from a family where food is everything. Half Mexican, half Italian. And my dad was in the restaurant business. So everything we did was around food. And so to have to like eliminate foods, and, back then, almost 28 years ago, being gluten-free was, people thought it was fake. And there was no like gluten-free options really. And so my Italian dad kind of would roll his eyes at me. And, you know, it was really hard to like make those changes from a young age and be able to implement things that I knew were making me feel better, but nobody else understood it. And we're kind of like, thought I was crazy, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so my like kind of awakening was I was about 16 and I started having terrible periods after something that a doctor told my parents that I needed to get, and that is something called Gardasil. And when I got that, I honestly didn't make this connection for a long time, but now knowing what I know, afterwards my periods had changed. And again, like I looked healthy from the outside, but I wasn't. And I had, you know, clotting, days and days and days of dark blood and pain that would like bring me to my knees, where I would be hospitalized and they were like, oh, your appendix is bursting. And then it wasn't. It was just my menstrual cycle.
But that's normal.
Mm-hmm. Right? And so over and over again, these OBGYNs and, you know, bless their hearts, this is all that they knew, but they were just like, oh, you need to be on birth control. And so that kind of was another journey where they just masked symptoms over and over again. And that was kind of this like every year would be something new. A symptom would come up and we would just mask it. And so before I really kind of like came out of this dark hole, I realized I'm not well. What's going on? And so it took a naturopathic doctor to kind of look at my labs and really dig deep. And this is like what I do every single day. And I know this is what you do too. And we do it together, which is really fun too. But to kind of sit down with me and be like, you have, you know, I had parasites, I had heavy metals, I had all these things that had never even heard of it. Like you think of parasites living in a fish, you know, and my background growing up surfing and fishing all over Mexico and eating raw shellfish and traveling to third world countries, you know, it wasn't weird that I had parasites, but to the level that and I know that's a hot topic right now, right? Mm-hmm. But this was a long time ago. And so this naturopathic doctor like really worked with me in repairing my gut and working with supplements and food elimination diets and probably everything that we've heard of into like a key term right now. Mm-hmm. I did. And so that really was I would just say like it was kind of a blessing, because now I get it. I get what people are going through. I get when people come to me and they tell me that, hey, my doctor told me that my labs look fine, but I have this list of symptoms. And so that, you know, progressed into college. And again, like I finally stopped taking birth control and I got to see my cycle for what it was and learning about what, you know, how these symptoms really mean something and what do they mean. Mm-hmm. And so then now 12 years later, I've been working as a nutritionist, and before that, I was able to work along a lot of different doctors and naturopaths and chiropractors and acupuncturists working with their clients, and it was just amazing to be able to see like there's a theme across all these people, and it's inflammation and it's the food. And so once we fix the food, we can take a step back and see what's really going on. And so my passion is teaching people how to eat healthy and, you know, what that looks like, because it's very individualized, as you know. Mm-hmm. There isn't a one size fits all model in nutrition. And so that's why I love doing what I do now, is like looking at people's labs, looking at their signs and symptoms, and looking at what they're putting in their body and creating a customized protocol for them. And I was able to do a little bit of that with my book because I felt like I could reach more people. And yeah, I feel like I kind of rambling on, so I'm going to stop talking.
I could listen to you ramble forever, and you see the light behind my eyes as you share different parts of your story, because I think that there's, as individuals that have gone through some health stuff or just life stuff, there's kind of two ways that you can go about it. You can be the victim and you can feel like these things are happening to you and that you're different and that there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you and everyone else is healthy and fine. But you instead took that as a sign to learn about yourself, to heal yourself, and then to help show up for people in your life. Because I also know firsthand that it's not easy to feel like the black sheep, and especially being an Italian and being like, sorry, Pops, I'm just going to eat gluten-free now. And having people roll their eyes, and you have to have a very strong center to be able to stand in that and to be able to show up for yourself, because it's easy to cave with peer pressure, but you knew that it was helping you because so many of these signs and symptoms from the outside, I mean, you're drop dead gorgeous and you've probably always been this beautiful. So on the outside, people didn't think you looked sick, but inside you were exhausted. I remember when we first met and you would tell me about, you know, when you were an athlete and at soccer, just how you would crash after and how people would tell you that was normal. Or even with your periods, you know, people aren't inspecting your blood and watching you in fetal position in your bed, but these were clear signs that your body was unhappy. And while I'm not happy that you were able to see the influence of how different things were, you know, either taken by mouth or injected into you and how that influenced your symptoms, but you're so dropped in that you could feel those shifts.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't overnight, right? It was this awakening as I started to put like these puzzle pieces together. And unfortunately, that is something that most people either are going through that are listening to this or have been through, and they're kind of on the other side of it, you know, with just toxic overload. We're constantly being bombarded by things. And I talk about this so much with my clients because it's not just what we put on our skin. It's so much of the stuff that we can't control, especially with food. So, yeah. And honestly, like when I met you, which was that October, you said?
October 2020.
October 2020. It's crazy.
I know.
Almost, yeah. It's been not even that long, and I feel like I've known you forever.
Yeah, soulmate. I know.
But yeah, you're right. Like when I was in such a dark. Should we talk about this now?
We can talk about it now. Let's do it.
So
yeah.
When I met you, I think Allison. So there's an amazing birthing center called Tourmaline. And it's in Pacific Beach in San Diego, and we both worked there. And but before this, I had never realized that I spent so much of my life trying not to get pregnant, and then when I went to get pregnant, it wasn't so easy. Yeah. And when I finally did become pregnant, I was interviewing midwives because I knew I wanted to go the holistic route. I didn't know if I wanted to do a birthing center or a home birth, and so I had interviewed the amazing midwives over at Tourmaline. And now fast forward, they told me, oh, you need to get ultrasound, and you know, once you do that, we can come back and create, you know, a plan. And so I went for my ultrasound, and I was so excited. My husband was actually elk hunting in Montana without service, so my sister came with me, and it wasn't like a big thing because I felt all the pregnancy symptoms and everything looked good. And so I went there, and the ultrasound tech was like, how far along are you? And I was like, I think, you know, 10, 11 weeks, you know, based on my periods were not regular. So it was hard to know exactly. And she kind of looked at me and kind of like looked at the screen and looked back at me and was like, have you been bleeding? And I said, no. Is something going on? And she was like, well, I can't find the heartbeat. So let's do another test. And so I went, emptied my bladder, and then they did the other tests where they stick the thing up you, and she was like, there's no heartbeat. And I like looked at her, and you know, the ultrasound techs really need to take a little like emotional class because they're not very nice. But yeah, I like was hit by this shock where it never crossed my mind. I just never even thought like I had a chance to have a miscarriage. And 1 out of 4 women have miscarriages that are reported. Mine wasn't even reported. So if we think about how many people are going unreported, having miscarriages at home, that number is way higher than 1 out of 4. So she was like, you know, I can't confirm anything. You have to go get your, you know, levels checks and talk to your doctor, which I didn't have because I hadn't been in an OB in 6 years. And so my sister and I went home, and within an hour I was bleeding. And anyway, it was the deepest, darkest rock bottom I've ever hit in my life. Not just because it took me so long to get pregnant and I was ready finally in my life to like do this next stage of I just was in this next stage of like womanhood, I would say. And but my husband wasn't there, and I still like had this like little bit of like hope that maybe, you know, because sometimes some people spot and they bleed. And so luckily enough, the midwives at Tourmaline, they were like, do your HCG and test it, and if it's not doubling, then you know this is a confirmed miscarriage, and these are the options. Because when you go online and you Google what to do, or you call an OB, they just tell you to go to the ER, and they're gonna just try to scrape it out of you. Sorry for the bluntness, but it's pretty invasive what they do. And so this was, I think, day 3, and let me tell you, like, it's not just a period blood. It felt like someone is taking knives and jabbing it into you. So not only are you go from having like all these amazing pregnancy hormones to a crash. So you're an emotional roller coaster, but then you're like passing chunks, and it's gnarly, to say the least. And so the midwives took me in, and Josie, who's incredible, and just she like put me in the room and did this like closing ceremony for me, and like actually we talked about what was happening and like say goodbye and all these things that I don't think most people ever get to do. And so I left there that day being like, well, why can't everybody like have this kinds of resources? And so actually from that little moment on, I couldn't get out of my head, how can we help more women? And that's just been my entire journey, is how do I help other people with what I've learned and what, unfortunately, some of the stuff I've been through. And so there was nothing out there that helps support women going through a miscarriage that I could find. And so I teamed up with the women at Tourmaline, the midwives at Tourmaline, and we created this amazing company called Box for Loss. And this is a shameless plug, but it's incredible what we've been able to do, especially through COVID and what's been going on with that. Miscarriages are up about 600%.
It's a small amount.
Since these last couple of years, we'll just say that. And so we've been able to help so many women, and we help them both on the physical and emotional side. There's 2 different boxes. One that's when you're going through the miscarriage. So there's like tinctures for blood loss and teas and sitz baths and all these amazing things. And then there's also, if you've ever had a miscarriage, we have a bag that's really focused on the grief and actually like going through that. Because in my case, well, I'm just skipping ahead. So after that, I would say a month after that, I was like, well, what do I do now? When can I start trying again? Like what's the protocol for this? And Allison was like, why don't you meet with a naturopathic doctor that you don't know? Because at this time I've really been reading my own labs, doing, analyzing myself through my own eyes, which, as you know, sometimes you miss things. And also like I had so many doctor friends through my journey that I just would like do trade, or they would just like, hey, try this supplement, this is going on, or whatever. And so she was like, you need to start from a clean slate, and why don't you just try out our naturopathic doctor here? And so that's how I walked in the room with Ashley, and I looked at her and we like kind of felt like I had known her for a while. And then she told me the cards thing, and I was like, all right, this is meant to be.
Yeah, it was meant to be. Yes.
Yeah. And then, my journey to, I would say like my true fertility journey, because I didn't get pregnant right away. And there was a lot of stuff going on that I had missed and other practitioners had missed, and that Ashley caught right away because she's amazing. And we went through it. I like just got the chills. But like, yeah, it was hard, because I honestly thought that like I would just get pregnant right away, and I wasn't. And there was so many layers to peel off, and we did that together. And I learned a lot about a lot of things, but during this time, I was also able to pour a lot of that like emotional trauma that I had been through into something that has become so beautiful, which is the Box for Loss. And so yeah, then that next year, right? Yeah, that next year, it took me a year to the day when I took my pregnancy test to get pregnant.
I didn't know that.
And
I didn't know it was to the day.
To the day. And the thing that's the most crazy is that, Dr. DeLuna was telling me, there's going to be a right time for that. And yeah, of course she's a doctor, but there's also so much more to getting pregnant than just your labs or what your, ovulation. Like there's such a big emotional component. And I tell this to so many women that come to us after having a miscarriage, is like, if you don't deal with the emotional side of it, it's true for life also. Yeah. But if you don't deal with the emotional side of it, it's really hard to close that chapter and open a new one. And that was my block. I was so scared I was going to have a miscarriage again. And so Dr. Luna recommended this amazing therapist, who now is hard to get into because she's so popular.
Flips. Yeah.
But we worked together, and she helped me in so many different components of my life. And, but this is something that was so hard for me, and I have nothing against IVF, because I know so many women that have been able to get pregnant through it. But for me, it was like, well, why can't I do this on my own kind of thing? Especially because I've helped 5 women that were told they're never ever going to be able to get pregnant, and you know who you are listening to this, because it's just been beautiful to be able to to give someone that gift, you know? And so I had this IVF consultation because an acupuncturist and at a fertility clinic told me that I had a 2% chance of getting pregnant on my own after looking at my AMH. Which you told me is bullshit.
I did. Yeah.
But the AMH thing spun me out because it was like after we'd done a bunch of stuff and I kept doing labs and everything was, and I got off my thyroid medicine that I had been on for my entire life. And we had just done like a lot of work together and I was just like doing so well that it was so frustrating that, I mean, the feeling that you have when you see blood in your underwear, not just because of the miscarriage, but like because you think you're going to you think you're pregnant again is like, oh man, it's so crazy. It's like, yeah. So women that have been through this year after year, I just like feel for them so much. But so I was just like, whatever, I'm going to be super vulnerable right now. And I'm going to just do this IVF consultation that they recommended. Supposedly this person is holistic, whatever. And so we're in Hawaii. My husband had like an event. And so we're in the hotel room and we're doing this consultation. And I didn't know at the time, but I was pregnant when I had this consultation. And the lady was a biatch. Sorry, but she was.
Please don't be sorry. She was a bitch.
She was a bitch. And she just like, I mean, I know this is her job, so she's used to like this, I guess not used to it, but you just like become kind of insensitive but it's just such a emotional thing. And she just was like, look, kind of like looking at my labs, like going, obviously she hadn't prepared like how we do for people. And she just was like, oh yeah, your AMH. You know, kind of like muddling some things. And she was like, yeah, I mean, you should have done this a long time ago. You should at least froze your eggs. Like, you're old. And she basically told me like, yeah, you should have done this yesterday. And she gave me like, okay, so, you know, we need to like look at labs on this day. When's your next period? And kind of going through all these things. And I was like, I couldn't even talk on the consultation. I was just like, first of all, I can't believe I'm doing this. And second of all, like, she's telling me that I have a really low chance even through IVF.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went on a bender for a couple of days. We like were at the surf contest. I drank. I was in a very bad place. And I was like, maybe I'm not meant to be a mom. Maybe this, you know, isn't my time. And then I kind of like all of a sudden was like, wait, I haven't started my period. 4 days late. And I took a pregnancy test and I was like, okay, it's probably just like a chemical pregnancy. Like this can't be right. And so Josh being the like super like, he's very like, what's the even keel? Like he's just, you know, and he's like, okay, well, let's not get too excited yet. And so let's, you know, wait a couple days and do another test. And so we did, and I was pregnant. And it was really hard because one of the other things that's so crazy about being pregnant and sharing and having a loss is nobody shares for the first 3 months in America. Only in America we do this. Hey, let's hide our loss because that's when most people have these losses in the first trimester. So just don't tell anyone because, you know, you want people to be alone doing this, right? And so my whole thing was like, okay, well, I want to share because I know I'm early, but I want to share because I don't want to be alone again. Yeah. I was so alone before. And I know I wasn't because honestly, when I posted it on social media, which is so weird to say, but like I had thousands of strangers writing me emails and DMing me saying, I've never even told my husband. I've never even told this person because I was so shamed. It was so weird. You blame yourself. You're like, was it the kombucha I drank? Was it the raw cheese I ate? What was it? Like what made, you know? And so I was pregnant and that I was checking my HCG twice a week, like a psychopath.
Yes.
And, you know, Ashley and other practitioners were telling me, you don't need to do this, you know, but I needed to do it for my mental state. And I only did it for like, I don't remember, like maybe 10 weeks or something. But if you don't know, that's one of the ways that, I think the best way to know if you're having a miscarriage is your HCG won't continue to go up. But for me, it was just like, I don't know. I had to do it. And then once I got past that, I had an incredible pregnancy. Like I felt better than I feel now.
Postpartum bubble. Yeah.
I'm 6 months postpartum.
Yeah. She had a baby. Just to like jump to the best part of the story, she has a gorgeous baby boy. So it all worked. It all worked out beautifully. And just truly thank you for sharing all the details of that story. I had chills throughout most of it. I almost cried throughout most of it. It's just really beautiful because you are so vulnerable and you are so open. And you're right. So many people do these things alone. So many people just struggle in silence, and so many people are embarrassed or turn that blame inwards. And as a medical professional, and also as someone that loves you deeply, none of it was your fault. Of course it wasn't your fault.
Totally. It's just, it's so easy though to be like shame. I don't know why we have so much shame around it. And if I knew that it was way more common, maybe I would have felt better. I don't know. It's hard to say, but we don't talk about it in America. We like, I ask my like Mexican family and other family members like what they do, and you know, other countries what they do. And we're like really the only country that like makes you feel like, I don't know, just this weird shame around it.
Yeah. We like shame in this country.
We do.
I don't, but the country does. And you know, Torrie, I think it's important that we touch a little bit about what your health was like even before, which you did. You went into it, but I want to touch a little bit more on it because there might be some people listening not understanding how things like anemia or how things like thyroid imbalance or even having irregular periods can influence getting pregnant. So I would love to just dive a little bit into that, because when I first met you, you were on thyroid medication. You knew that you had low thyroid, and you had already done so much work to get your autoimmune piece of it, the Hashimoto's, under control, which is where the gluten-free diet comes in, which is in where all the food is medicine comes in. So that, just in case the listeners don't know, most physicians, and I know that you were working with many wonderful holistic practitioners, but most physicians, when they're screening someone who is trying to get pregnant, it's really important that they look at all their hormones, which rarely happens, but it's really important that they look at thyroid. And a lot of the times they will only test TSH. TSH is, as you are well aware, my lab queen, it is only a brain hormone. It's not even made from the thyroid. So I find that so often people are missing subacute thyroid conditions. And if you're low on thyroid hormone, you won't ovulate. If you don't ovulate, there's no egg to be fertilized. It's also influencing menstrual cycle. It's influencing growth. So if you get pregnant, you need enough thyroid hormone to grow a whole new life inside of you. So that was something that I loved working on with you, because you were able to get off of your meds. But then when it was time for you to get pregnant, you just needed a little kiss of thyroid hormone, a little microdose of thyroid. Just a little bit. And then also, do you mind speaking a little bit as to what your menstrual cycles were like regularity wise? What was that?
And the thalassemia. We didn't talk about that.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
Okay. So yeah, my menstrual cycles, so my first one was I was 14, which I think is like later too than what people are having now.
Like first graders are getting their period now, but that's a story for another day.
That's a hormone chicken. So they always were a little bit irregular because I was super thin and athletic. That's what they would tell me. I don't know, whatever. But then, post, I would say for as long as I can remember, they were heavy, like so heavy. And being a small human, it's just like, I was like, is all my blood coming out? Like, is this it? Clotty, which shows a lot about other things, dark and long. And I actually would schedule my whatever I was doing, whether it was college or work, around my cycle, because I knew I was going to be in so much pain. And because I'm a hard ass and stubborn, I wouldn't take any pain medication because I knew how bad it was for you. So I would just suffer. And again, I probably fired 4 OBs because they kept telling me, oh, you just need to go on birth control and it will fix it. And I'm like, I was on that for so long and it didn't fix it. And now I feel like my symptoms are even worse, and they were masked for so long. And yeah, so they were terrible. And I mean, as you know, between that, never pooping, which thyroid, and then my thalassemia, which is, genetic, but it's a type of anemia, and no one ever caught it until Ashley. Sorry, Dr. DeLuna, whatever your name is.
Call me whatever you want, babe. Truly.
And so, wait, was that our first round of labs where you sent me to the
Yes, because on your CBC with differential, it showed that when they looked at your cells under a microscope that you had some very interestingly shaped red blood cells. And there's a lot of things, and I'm pretty confident that I know what's going on, but if there's anything interesting going on that's being spewed out from the bone marrow, I needed to make sure that it was what I thought it was, which was thalassemia. But a lot of different, and with you, honestly, I'm not even sure, because you had a lot of chronic infections, and a lot of chronic infections sit inside of our red blood cells and can have that pattern. So... But yeah, it was the first round of labs that we sent you off.
And it's so crazy because when you asked me, like, do you have common anemia symptoms? I really didn't. Like, I didn't have like the bruising easily. Like, yeah, I was a little bit maybe cold hands and feet, but nothing like I've seen a lot of my clients. They were the typical anemia. I think some of my symptoms that looked like anemia were more thyroid focused, right? And
like the fatigue.
Yeah, the fatigue, I mean, my fatigue that I've lived with, I mean, some of the practitioners are like, I can't believe you can get out of bed with these numbers. Like most people with these like hemoglobin, like they're exhausted. How were you an athlete?
Because you're a superhuman, babe. You really are. I don't think you're a human either. I said that on my first episode. I don't know if I'm a human or an alien. Definitely not sure if you're a human or an alien.
For sure. We're aliens. Sure.
My sweet Aquarius. Yeah, you're not from here.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. And I'm happy that you brought up the hemoglobin piece, because hemoglobin is one of the many ways that you can diagnose anemia, as is total red blood cells. And something that can happen in someone who has thalassemia is that your bone marrow is going to try to pick up the slack. So your bone marrow will push out a bunch of baby red blood cells, which are reticulocytes, which I think is incredibly important to run on blood work. I run them on all of my patients. But for you, your bone marrow... The reticulocytes are the baby red blood cells.
Baby ones.
Yeah, so your bone marrow makes reticulocytes and then they mature. So red blood cells actually start really big and they're like awkward. And then as they mature with different B vitamins, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. They lose their nucleus. So now they're just this unique cell that essentially is carrying around oxygen and doing this gas exchange. But if you're nutrient depleted, which you were, or if you have a condition in which your bone marrow is making red blood cells in an abundance, which in thalassemia does, because it's how the body's trying to compensate, you can have on your CBC, you can have a normal amount of red blood cells, but you can still have anemia. And that was the case with you. You had a normal amount of red blood cells, but your cells were very small. Your red blood cells were teeny, teeny, tiny, tiny, tiny. And that's common with thalassemia because the cell changes its size, so it can't necessarily hold as much iron. It can't hold as much oxygen because the iron can't bind. And now I'm like dropped into your labs right now. You also had some interesting mineral stuff going on because you were really low in copper. And you know very well how copper and iron and vitamin A all talk to one another to keep your blood strong, because with your very heavy periods, with your low hemoglobin, with your thyroid being low, your blood was not nourished. Your blood was deficient. It was weak. And that's what we need to not only create a new life, but I'm going to kind of transition this to your uterus a little bit. If you don't have strong blood, your uterine lining will not be thick enough to hold a babe, because with your periods, you had signs of what I would say if someone didn't take in your whole picture, they would be like, you have really high estrogen. You have very high estrogen dominance. But you, when we ran no, you did not. You had low estrogen.
And that's what they told me. And they diagnosed you with PCOS and endo and all these blanket terms like an IBS, right? Let's just put these blanket terms on you. And, oh, you have tons of cysts. That's what it is. You have these cysts all over your ovaries. Okay. Nothing ever changed. And I've had intravenously an IV of iron, which stained me.
Yeah.
Which is gnarly.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
Especially when you're 17 and like have to be in a bikini in summer and have a black looking butt. It was traumatizing.
Yeah.
Not gonna name names though. And but yeah, I mean I've done literally all the things that like typical anemia people, you know, they would tell you to do. Nothing worked.
Yeah.
But guess what we did?
What did we do? Remind me.
I know what we did. They told me I couldn't have a home birth because my hemoglobin was too low. And that's like, I don't know if that's is that a California legal thing?
I honestly don't know, just because I only know the laws here, but California has some interesting regulations.
But it's just, you know, and obviously I have a business with the midwives. I was the one that I took the medical like stance of it and was like, okay, if I bleed out, it's on me. Here, sign my life away because I'm doing this. But I was able, my hemoglobin went so low, it was at 6.
It's very low.
Which literally, if I went to a hospital, they would have given me a transfusion but the transfusion doesn't help me.
No.
This is my baseline, not 6, but like low, 10.
Yeah. I think it was,
9, 8.
it was like 9.
Yeah. And so when I hit the beginning of my 3rd trimester and my 2nd trimester, because there's so much blood volume happening, that's when I dropped to the 6. And that's when they were like, are you okay? I'm like, what do you mean am I okay? I'm thriving. I want to be pregnant forever. I feel amazing. Like I literally felt insane amazing.
Because you had hormones.
Yeah, because I actually had hormones. Exactly. Because they weren't being stolen from me from all the things I had taken for so long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that, I think we we kind of tangent out of there, but you talked about the hormones, and that was such a big piece because, we were focused on the thyroid, we were focused on all these other things, and especially my gut and parasites and all the things that we found. However, when we looked at my full hormone panel, which I had done through my OB so many times, just like you say, they just look at TSH. They missed a lot. I had no progesterone. And like you said, I was not estrogen dominant.
No. You barely had estrogen.
I barely had any. Barely had testosterone. And so when we started working on those things, like, I mean, I didn't know. I just wrote, I almost just plugged my exciting thing, but should I? Okay.
Plug it anytime you want.
So this is the first time I'm saying this out loud.
I'm here to support you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm doing a second book, and it's all about what to eat for fertility, preconception, and then during each phase of your pregnancy. All 4 phases, because the 4th one is very important. And just, through what I've done with clients, what I've done on myself, and why we've shamed so much of the common foods that are super important, like the ones you just talked about: vitamin A, copper, iron-rich foods, liver, shellfish, raw dairies, all these yummy things that have high copper and vitamin A naturally, that we're told you can't eat. So I talk about that, and just, a lot of the stuff that we did together, the toxin, like how to reduce your toxic load before you get pregnant, and how to focus on gut health and all these things that are so important before you get pregnant, and then how to, kind of support yourself so you feel really good during pregnancy, because we've normalized not feeling good.
Yeah.
Why? Oh, it's normal just to barf the whole time. No, it's not. Here, take some prescription drugs for it. Seriously, do you know the amount of people that are taking something for anti-nausea, anti-whatever, barfing?
Oh, I do. And you know what? Fun fact. Here's a truth bomb. If you feel like you're going to puke, that is a sign that your body is trying to make progesterone. It's trying really, 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 really hard to make progesterone. So you might be vitamin C deficient, might be B6 deficient. I usually give B6 shots in my office, and it's a game changer. But no, that is not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. Yeah. So I'm doing another book. I don't know what I'm thinking, because trying to be a mom and work and have your own business and write a book is really challenging. It's definitely crazy pants for that. But I am, like I said, I'm so passionate about helping people, and I know that this information is so needed, because there's a ton of amazing pregnancy books out there, but the food side isn't that fun, and I want to make it fun and taste good. Yeah. And you're the perfect babe to do that. And yeah, you're definitely crazy, but that's why I love you. And I want to kind of link that into circling it back to the hormones, because when we were working together, you were taking hormones, you were taking synthetic hormones to help balance your cycles. And they did. They got your cycles regular, which of course it's ideal to have regular cycles so that you can try to track if you're ovulating to see when you can get pregnant, that kind of a thing. But my approach is I don't necessarily put people on hormones, because I like to see what their body can do. Thyroid, I mean, if your thyroid has had a certain level of destruction from an autoimmune attack, or if an organ that is making a hormone is weak, then maybe giving it some support is one thing. But for me, I don't typically prescribe testosterone, estrogen, that kind of a thing. So with you, we really had to work on the root cause. And a lot of it was that you are a powerhouse. You didn't really stop. You kept going. Even post miscarriage, I think I asked you, how long did you take off work? And you're like, oh, I saw clients that day.
I'm a stupid sometimes.
It's okay. We love you. We're learning.
I didn't want to deal, and that's my thing. And I'll just push these things to the side. And I'll deal with it later.
Yeah. And as female-bodied individuals, our menstrual cycle, our hormones are so deeply tied to our emotions and our stress. So if our body is in a very masculine go, go, go mode, I must do this, I must check off that, we disconnect ourselves to that natural rhythm, and it's hard to get into these cyclical patterns. So a lot of what I asked you to do was things that you didn't usually do. Like I had you go to yin yoga,
which I loved, and I was embarrassed to admit it.
That you loved it? You were embarrassed to admit.
I was like, wow, I would never have chosen this class in a million years. I want to do like the crazy hard class. And it was so good for me.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know the coolest girl at the yoga studio.
Nikki Ray Bose, my best friend, owner of Unified Yoga. Me!
Well, yeah, when I got to go to the class with you and everyone's like, oh my God, hey, you're the teacher here. But no, Nikki is the most incredible teacher. It was like honestly going to a therapy or like a I don't know, like a empowerment because that girl, her words are magical.
Yeah, she can channel some deep shit.
So I went to yin. I stopped doing a lot of like the things I like to do, like exercising hard, because being an athlete, that's just what I thought I needed to do. Mm-hmm. And I chilled a lot more, which is really hard for me. I mean, I wouldn't say a lot, but like I chilled more than I have ever chilled, and it's hard for me. Yeah. And I love sleeping, people. I am a sleep person, and excuse my any rambling, because I do have brain fog for the first time. I've never had brain fog in my life, but everybody around me seems to have it. You know, clients, people that I love, it's a common symptom. I just never had it, luckily, because I do prioritize sleep, but having a baby and not sleeping for at least the first 3 months was really challenging.
Yeah.
My brain is coming back.
You're killing it. Whatever brain is in there is beautiful, and it's showing up, so I'm grateful.
Okay, so we're circling back to that. Progesterone.
Yeah.
We did it. You prescribed it.
Yes.
I took it. Mm-hmm. And guess what? I hadn't been ovulating.
Mm-hmm. And reminder, friends, we did talk about this in an earlier episode, but in case you are not aware, you only make progesterone when you ovulate.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Obviously. You can have a period and not ovulate.
Of course you can.
But mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why don't we teach this to little girls that are 13 so they know that, like, even though you have a period doesn't mean you get pregnant?
Yeah. I don't know. There's just some deep disconnect to the womb in general, and people, I mean, you could still say to like anyone that doesn't bleed anything about your period and they'll get grossed out and want to cry. Like, I don't know. As anyone with a womb is bleeding, hopefully once a month, and it's something that we should just talk about.
Or understand it. It's not even, it's the fifth vital sign.
Yes.
Ovulation really is, because if you're not ovulating, you can't be healthy. Mm-hmm. You really can't. Whether you're trying to conceive or not, if you are not ovulating, your health is, something's going on.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a big part of my picture.
Yes.
I mean, if I was having a healthy ovulation, I probably wasn't gonna have these crazy, terrible periods, right?
Yes.
And, not understanding that I wasn't ovulating was affecting me not getting pregnant. I was mind blown by that.
Yeah. And I'm happy that you brought that up as well, just because there are so many reasons why you could not ovulate. And from an external perception, you can't tell because you are bleeding, but you cannot ovulate for a myriad of things. You could not ovulate if you're really stressed. You could not ovulate if you're over exercising, if you're nutrient depleted,
not
if
eating
you're
enough calories. That's what I see every day.
Yes. Oh God, do I see that all the time. Mm-hmm. And yes, your uterine lining is shedding, but I see a lot of cycles that are either really short, meaning that they bleed every 3 weeks and it's a lot of blood. And usually that's because what progesterone does is it keeps the blood where it's supposed to be, which is why it's so important to keep a pregnancy where it's supposed to be, right? In the womb. So if you're low in progesterone, things are just going to shed. And usually I also see that these individuals might spot when they're trying to ovulate because there's no progesterone to keep that old blood in there. So it might be old rusty blood, or their periods are just darker, more clot-like and whatnot. But with you, usually, because you can still be estrogen dominant even if you don't have a lot of estrogen. So you were having estrogen dominant symptoms, the heavy periods, the clots, the pain, all of the just raging PMS symptoms. Those are usually all related to too high of estrogen in relationship to progesterone. Mm-hmm. But your estrogen wasn't high enough to trigger ovulation, because that's the thing as well. All of our hormones are talking to one another. So if your estrogen at a baseline is lower in the follicular phase of your cycle, as your egg is maturing, you should be making more and more and more and more and more and more estrogen, which will then trigger your brain to ovulate via a different brain hormone. And I will never forget when you sent me that email saying what a few other practitioners had said to you based on your labs. And I actually sent you a voice memo. I remember sending it to you because I was fucking enraged. Yeah. I was like, Torrie, you have been pregnant. You have been pregnant.
Yeah. And my issue wasn't I'd never been pregnant. Right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people's issue is like, they never could get pregnant. And you said that. And I remember being like, okay, that's true. Like, I did do it once. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the AMH thing was the one that was like spiraled me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which you said is kind of a gray area, right?
Well, because every hormone is saying something different going on. And really a lot of people, when they look at hormones to say what's going on in your eggs, they'll look at your FSH and your LH on day 3. And that's what I was referring to, because I think your FSH and LH, I think they're in like the 20s, which if you were to open up a textbook and say, is someone fertile? It will say ideally on day 3 of your menstrual cycle, with day 1 being the first day that you bleed. On day 3, it should be optimally under 10, between 6 to 10. Under 6 is ideal. But if it is higher than that, that is a sign that your brain is very much yelling at your ovaries to mature an egg. And there are lots of things that can impact that signal. And with you, we uncovered about 500 things that could have been impacting that signal. And I really feel for all of the families that are trying to get pregnant that are told, oh, there's actually just something wrong with you. You won't be able to get pregnant based on this number. And a lab is just one little snapshot in time. So I don't find that realistic, and I don't find that to be kind or even in alignment with what I've seen in my practice.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been able to change my lab so much.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, you're so right. Like, it's such a little glimpse of a big picture, and it does give us a lot, because I always tell people, like, it does give us so much information, but we're not going to just do it once. We need to make the changes, implement them for at least 3 months, and then, really see where you're at. And there's not just one thing that goes into it. And so for like, especially for fertility stuff, there's so many different things that go into it, like having someone tell you that you have that. And also, like, don't tell people that's terrible. It's like telling someone you might have cancer, or hey, I think you have cancer. Yeah, like, everyone in your family has it, so that means you have it. And it's
you
like,
probably have it.
Yeah, it's just prepare so
to
wrong.
Die. Yeah,
it's so wrong. So the labs are a huge help, but there's so much more that goes into it.
And one of the beautiful gifts that you gave me was opening my eyes to how many toxins there are. Yes, in medical school, we absolutely had a weekend course on environmental medicine, which naturopathic medical schools, you could do way better than that.
And how much does doctors have? Well, they only have 4 hours of nutrition.
So they probably don't learn about it at all, even though a lot of what they're giving are toxins to the body. Sorry, truth bomb. But the egg, both the egg and sperm, they are maybe the most sensitive cells to environmental toxins. So you're born with all the eggs that you will have, but you can completely change your egg quality in 3 months. So I have seen very large shifts happen with someone who worked hard in those 3 months to really detoxify. And of course, ideally it would be longer than 3 months, but I'm just saying that in that time, who worked really hard on their exposures, on detoxification, on nourishment, on stress, on balancing their hormones, completely different picture in 3 months.
Nutrient stores. I talk about that all the time. I think that was one of the reasons I had such a beautiful pregnancy, is because it took me so long to get pregnant. I had been building my nutrient stores like the next month I was going to get pregnant. And so I had done all this work, all this cleansing, then building nutrient stores, and then being able to have this beautiful pregnancy. And that's what I'm going to talk about in my book, because it's there's like these phases that you have to go through, because your baby takes everything from you. And if you don't have that everything, you're going to feel terrible.
Yes.
And, eating has been my job for most of my life. And so I take it pretty seriously. Like, food is everything to me. And it's fuel, but it's also medicine. And so when we do it the right way, you can feel really, really amazing. One thing that we didn't talk about that I just had a glimpse of, and I feel like because this is your podcast, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
The parasite stuff.
Oh my goodness. I was hoping that we would go there.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I don't know if we can put any pictures in the video, but I have some to share. Like, so many my husband's like, I can't believe strangers text you pictures of their poop. And I was like,
good morning. Want to see my poop?
We text each other, but we're freaks. But like random clients, strangers from social media texting pictures of their poop, which I love. So if you want to send me, we can do it.
Send it.
But so I was already doing cell core.
Yeah.
And I told you about it, and I was like, what do you think about this? Because, you're my guru now. I'm just going to ask you everything. And you're like, what are you talking about? I never heard of that. And I was like, okay, well, let's do it. And then I'm not going to share for you, but, we both.
You can share for me. You can share.
Okay, this chick, if you've never met her in person, she is the cutest little mini human. Things are coming out of mini human that are unbelievable. Unbelievable. How? We don't know. Where they hide. I say her big toe. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
But so we would just do parasite cleanses together. This is how much fun we have on the weekends, Parasite cleansing. But Cellcore literally changed my life. But after my miscarriage, I did like a pretty crazy one, because before then I didn't want to do it. You don't really want to be cleansing when you're trying to get pregnant. You want to do that beforehand. And I had my first period after cleansing after the miscarriage that took me, I bled for 16 days after my miscarriage, and then I didn't have a period for 2 cycles, so 2 months. And I had a sack of worms come out of my period blood.
Yep.
That was pretty incredible. And I actually sent a picture to Dr. Jess, who's like Cellcore's main chick, who's a really good friend of mine, who wrote the foreword of my cookbook. And she confirmed that I wasn't crazy, because I was like, are these mini worms or what are these? But they're like in a sack in my period blood. And like, I felt this like crazy feeling. Like, I mean, I'm not going through my blood. I go through my poop, but my blood, I just wasn't doing it. And I wiped, and I was like, I need to check this out. Took it outside, did a whole like, inspector gadget thing.
I love you. Yes.
How insane is that? So, because worms, people just think worms are in your poop.
Yeah.
They're in a lot of things.
And honestly, Tor, like when I first met you, I thought you were crazy. I did. I can't even act like I didn't. When I read your new patient paperwork, I was like, oh God, another health coach that thinks she knows everything. Honestly, I did. And I was like, this is going to be challenging. And then I realized who you were. And obviously I wanted to work with you, but I didn't. You blasted the wormhole open. That was also a beautiful gift that you gave to me by releasing these parasitic entities from my body, because I did not. I learned about them again in medical school, but we learn about them kind of acutely. You get a parasite, you clear it, you'll have clear symptoms, you know it's there.
Yeah, like traveler's diarrhea. That's like a common one. You're like, oh, that's a little parasite. Here, let's work on some, whatever. We're going to take some herbs or something.
Yeah, but no, they can live within you and they can hide. And I'll never forget either that in your new patient paperwork, you said that you had had unprotected sex for years and never got pregnant. However, you did 2 rounds of a parasite cleanse, and then you got pregnant. That's what you said in your paperwork. I literally read it this morning.
Right. So that was I got pregnant after three months of trying, after never being pregnant before. But I did a lot of Cellcore.
Yeah. And cleansing and clearing. And just from a health perspective, and I'm not sure if anyone's ever thought of this before, but if you are trying to get pregnant, it takes everything in you. It really does. So if there is anything that you need, your body is always going to prioritize you over creating a new life. So it's almost like the body it will pick you over the baby. So even if there's something triggering your immune system, if there's a low nutrient store, if there's something inflammatory, if there's stress, your adrenals go, oh no, it's not safe to keep this baby. And I find that parasites could absolutely be part of it. I have had a lot of patients who have passed parasites out of their womb. And just think about it. They're taking up space. They're stealing your blood. They're stealing your nutrients. They're creating this consistent inflammatory reaction. And then even to go back to dysmenorrhea and period cramps are a direct reflection of how inflamed you are and how many inflammatory chemicals there are. So if your immune system is actively trying to clear out a parasite from your womb, I could imagine that would make period cramps exquisitely painful.
Right. And toxic, like heavy metals, all these things that we have through the environment, through vaccine, through braces, through eating out of aluminum, for cooking, in aluminum foil, all these pesticides, all that stuff creates inflammation. And we have these like overflowing toxicity buckets, and we're kind of trying to empty them all the time, and they're hiding in different places. And yeah, that was huge, because since that day, I haven't had a period since baby, but like before that, I never in my life, I'm 35 years old, like I never had a normal period, which I think I had to call you and be like, is this what is normal for people? But I guess not a lot of people, but most people that have a normal period, it's like you don't really have cramps. You don't even know. I came out of nowhere. Like usually I have to prepare for this. Yeah. And so since I passed the little wormy family, my life was changed. But also it's post miscarriage too. So I think there's a lot of things that go into that. It's like I called it resetting giving my body another chance. Yeah. Kind of resetting, but. Yeah, it's pretty incredible what we hide in these bodies of ours. It's disgusting.
It is. I had
someone have a worm come out of their nose that had chronic sinus stuff their whole lives.
Yeah. out of the nose.
People are rolling their eyes right now in their cars.
Oh, I don't give a fuck. Roll your eyes, please. Don't listen to this. But I know some of them are loving it. And those are the people that we want to watch.
The people, no, I'm just kidding. But like, people are like, these chicks are crazy. Then they're going to do one round of cell core. I'm just going to try it out.
As a reminder, I thought you were crazy.
True.
But
you trusted me a little bit.
I did trust you. And you really can't deny it. And if my brother is watching this, he was skeptical. And I said, okay, Michael, I will buy you Cellcore. So I bought him a full moon kit.
You never told me this.
I didn't tell you this. There's a video on Instagram that you should watch because it's literally hilarious. This is from years ago. It was probably still in 2020 because I was living in my mold den. But I gave him, he took 2 capsules of Para 1, 2 capsules of Para 2, went to sleep, woke up, shit out a 2-foot worm. 2 feet.
Not even Para 3?
No, just Para 1 and Para 2 at night. That's all he took. He did not believe me, but I promise you, fam, that you can't deny if there's a worm in there. You can't, because when you break apart your poop...
Did you go in there?
I broke apart his poop.
Okay, because I broke apart Josh's because he told me that he was perfect and had no worms.
Yeah, of course Josh thought he was. All men think they're perfect.
Yeah, until you go through their poop and then he's like, okay, you're right.
Yeah, yes.
He's going to be so happy we told the world about his poop.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, and there's actually one other thing that I wanted to bring up that I hope it's okay if I bring this up. It's about Josh. Love you, Josh. So something that's important to consider is that there's 2 people making a baby. And of course, we talked a lot about you, but something that I missed because Josh is not my patient is that he was taking testosterone for a little bit.
Maybe.
He was.
I remember mom brain fog.
It's okay. He was. And let me describe this. So if anyone listening to this is trying to make a baby with someone with a penis.
Okay, it's coming back to me.
Yes. He was taking a little bit of testosterone, just a little bit.
Yeah.
However, what that does, all hormones are continuously communicating with the brain. So we have a negative feedback loop, and this is happening when people are on birth control too, but we're talking about now making healthy, beautiful sperm. That if you have testosterone floating around your blood that is a little bit in excess, which when you're supplementing or taking it exogenously, that's always what's going to happen. It swips around in your blood, goes to your brain and tells the brain, oh no, you don't have to make more. You're good. But one of the same hormones that is making testosterone in a male is the same that is helping them create perfect sperm. So you can impact spermatogenesis in taking testosterone. You kind of shut down that whole pathway. So that was also part of the picture.
Yeah, it came back to me. I remember you telling me that, like he has to go off of it. So my question is, for someone that may probably thinking this, what do you do in a situation where the male needs more testosterone and it's low? What do you do?
I would do the same thing that I did with you. I would say, why? Why? Because usually someone's not making testosterone for a number of reasons. It could be because it's being shunted to make cortisol because they're really stressed. It could be because they're exposed to so many exogenous estrogens that it's impacting or their testosterone is turning to estrogen because testosterone via an enzyme aromatase does turn to estrogen. And there's lots of different chemicals that upregulate that enzyme. Stress can do it. Blood sugar imbalances can do it. I see inflammation doing it all the time. Inflammation just makes everything messy. So if someone has low testosterone, I'm not one to jump to give someone testosterone at all. Honestly, in this far of my career, I've actually never even prescribed testosterone because I've been able to get it up by getting to the root cause. Okay. Yeah.
And so how often do you ask a fertility client to check the male? I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, now every single time because let's be real, women love to talk. We love to talk. We love to talk to each other. We like to talk about our blood, our pee, our poop, all of it. Men, they're like, oh no, I'm fine. It's not until their penis stops working that a man will come in to talk to me. Yeah. So
I know the only male clients I have are people's their wives sign them up to work with me.
Exactly.
They're like, oh, he doesn't poo, or he's on the toilet every day, every meal. You know.
Exactly. So usually if I'm working with a female, we've done the full workup. Their blood work is looking beautiful. Their hormones are perfect. From my perspective, there's no reason why they can't get pregnant. I would say we have to do a sperm analysis. And I usually do an at-home sperm assessment. It's just called Legacy is the name of the brand. Okay. You can order it online, send in your sample, and you get a report. And it tells you all the different aspects of sperm health because there are some changes in sperm health that are directly related to testosterone, some that are directly related to nutrient imbalances, to toxin exposure. So then from there, even if a man doesn't want to come in and do the full workup, which I absolutely recommend. I think both need this.
Why wait till you're sick to do something?
Why? But that's just the way this country works, right?
Sick healthcare.
But I would say if 2 people are making a baby, 2 people need to be on the same page. And then also it's frustrating for me when I'm working with a female who wants to get pregnant so badly. They are dreaming about it, thinking about it, spending thousands of dollars, going to workshops, and it's truly consuming their energy. And then it turns out that their husband isn't even making sperm with a tail. that can't swim, I can't even express to you how weird sperm can get. They can get so weird. They can have 2 heads, no tail. They can be malformed, and that's going to make a baby? No, you want a perfect little spermie.
And this is more common than we talk about, right?
Oh, exquisitely common. Yeah. I would say
40%?
I would say almost 50% of the time, fertility struggles are due to the male.
Yeah, I actually forgot about the testosterone thing. I can't remember what. He had a high toxic load. He had lots of mold exposure, living in a moldy shaping room for a very long time. Like, so many things that contribute to it. And like, believe me, he has a personal chef, so he gets to eat the best of the best. So it wasn't coming from that, but it was years of toxic exposure, and shaping surfboards isn't very, it's very toxic, I would say.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you know this just because you're a fish. I'm not a fish. I'm a land mammal. Just how much you are exposed to by going in the ocean.
I don't want to know, though.
Okay, we don't have to talk about that, though.
I have enough like burden, like eating at a restaurant where I'm like, I know there's vegetable oil in here, but I'm trying to play it cool and like be a normal human and go outside of my house sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard for me. But then I go home and have to do like a whole, detox.
Yeah, I understand.
Detox, yeah. But yeah, it's hard to know so much sometimes.
It is. But it's finding that balance. Huh?
So when you tell me to chill, I'm like, how do I chill? Like, there's just so many things going through my brain. But but you're right. It is empowering. And that's what I think what brought us together is that.
Yes.
And I think we've been talking for a very long time, but I have no idea.
I want to talk to you forever. I really do. And know that you all know that obviously Torrie's coming back because we have to talk about parasites just in depth. Because we could truly go down that wormhole.
Oh, we should do before and afters for clients. I don't know if it's like HIPAA allowed, but I have clients.
They sign off on it.
But I think, I think it'd be super cool because I have some insane testimonials. I mean, look at my testimonial.
Yeah, look at your testimonial. Look at my testimonial. We didn't even get into my health too much.
No, but that's a whole episode.
It's a whole episode all about my health. It'll be fun.
I can interview you.
You could. We'll just start a second podcast of us because do you know, even though I tell you this all the time, I'm the 4th Borrelli sister.
You are. I
just showed up late, but I am here to stay forever.
You're just missing boobs. Big old
Excuse
boobs.
me?
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They call them the Borrelli boobs.
That's so funny. Fun fact, I just don't wear bras, but when I wear a bra, they could maybe
fit in.
I'll try. Okay, I'll wear a bra next time. We'll see what happens. Okay. Just kidding. I'm not wearing a bra. Just take my word for it. Yeah, give me some milk. Torrie,
I talk about the baby.
Love you.
Okay.
No, we have to talk about the baby. We can't stop without talking about the baby.
Okay. I don't even know where to start because if we talk about my like labor situation, that's a lot.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't get into that.
We shouldn't. That could be phase 2.
Well,
the baby.
I suppose just speak a little bit to what it's like now that everything we just talked about is behind you. All the fears, all the what ifs. Now you have a gorgeous son. How does it feel?
I mean, I literally told a friend who had a fertility, she's pregnant, but she's about to have a baby. I told her this yesterday. I told her I never thought I'd be on the other side. I literally I never thought I'd be a mom. That's just how hard it was. It was so freaking hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I cried every day for a year after my miscarriage. I just couldn't get it together. It was terrible. It was so terrible. And I know some people probably rolling their eyes, or some people just, it's everyone's so different. But I think when you know so much and you're doing all the right things and you've worked so hard for something and it just feels like everything you're doing isn't working. It was really hard. So being on the other side of that is truly amazing. I have so much more respect for moms because it's hard, but it's also the most beautiful thing ever. I mean, I'm maybe biased, but I think I have a pretty cute kid, and he's
perfect.
But just the whole birth was gnarly, but I did it.
Yes, you did.
33 hours unmedicated, baby, but yeah, it's crazy that you just poop this thing out onto the floor. Literally, he fell on the floor. Sorry, Tourmaline, but
whoopsies.
But no, I was pretty close to the floor. I was squatting with the silk.
That's fine.
I was hanging from the silk. But yeah, it's a pretty incredible thing that we as women get to first of all be an alien and grow something inside of you, that grows fingernails and eyelids and organs. It just blows my mind. And then you just push it out really hard, and then you have this baby. And for me, we had some issues. He had a tongue tie, and it was real. The first 3 months were really hard. I did not sleep, and I was losing my mental health. I was okay, I need help. but I asked for help and I got it. But some people have babies that sleep through the night. I just didn't have that child, and it's probably, I thought I was gonna be way more chill. I thought I was gonna be like, oh, he just like goes on my boob and like we just sleep and it's so beautiful. And it was not like that. It was like he had a hard time eating and he was fussy and it was a lot, but we made it through. And I can't imagine being a single mom, because having a good partner is huge. So choose wisely, people.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been so freaking humbling. And I've seriously so much respect for my mom and all these other moms out there, because I think I took it for granted. I think it looks so much more fun and easy from the outside, and everything's so scary.
Yeah.
Like you're just like trying not to kill the thing, and it's way harder. You're like, is he breathing?
Yeah. Oh boy.
But yeah, it's incredible that we get to do this as women. And like so many women have been such a big integral part of my journey, and like community like that is just, it's so awesome. So, yeah, being on the other side of that is incredible. But yeah, and if you're listening to this and you're on that journey, like you will be a mom, and just keep telling yourself that.
Yes.
Because you will, if that's what you want.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I just really admire your vulnerability and how courageous you are just as a human, whether we're talking about health things or just how you show up to life. I really do admire your fire, your honesty, and just your passion for life and your passion for teaching, because you've changed so many people's lives. You've changed my life. Your story will be one of the greatest gifts that you've given me. Hearing that you were pregnant was one of the greatest gifts that my life has ever given me. And now I am going to cry, because truly. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. My absolute pleasure. Well, my angel, we always close this podcast by dropping a bomb. You could drop a love bomb, a truth bomb, a knowledge bomb, a book bomb, anything you want for my listeners. Or we could cry together. That's fine too.
It's hard. I mean, I think I would say it like really treat your food like it is medicine, because I think that's the biggest, it is the biggest thing that I see across the board every single day when I work with people, is they're scared of food. There's so many options out there, what to eat, what diet to do. Go back to, to nature. And we've talked about it a lot with you, and just, you didn't eat meat when I met you, I think, or you're barely eating it or something. Not as much as you do now.
Yeah,
or
not
something.
as much as eating a cow a day.
Yeah. But just like little things like that, and enjoying your food, because food should taste good, and it should be a place of love, like with friends, with loved ones, and really enjoy it, because I think that's being missed in our culture a lot, and not in my Mexican culture, not in my Italian culture, because that's literally everything. But food, yeah. And if you want some recipes to taste good, I got lots of them for you.
Show the crew.
This is my first book. It's basically anti-inflammatory foods, and it has lots of recipes, however you eat, vegetarian, meat, seafood, everything anti-inflammatory, focusing on protein and healthy fats. And I have a lot of free nutrition in there that just talks about, how to choose your better food options and how to source. I have a background in farming, so, really talking about like the soil and just some fun, dorky things in there. And then coming soon, my second book, which is more female focused, but there's going to be a lot of stuff in there so that you can share with your partner or some loved ones to actually cook for you, because I think that's also a magical gift that you can give people.
I love that. You all need to follow everything that she's doing. I'm obsessed with her. That's why she's here, because I'm obsessed with her. So on Instagram, it is TheVitaWell. It's TheVitaWell.com as well, right? Mm-hmm. Check out her books. You need them. You need to eat all of her food. Truly, you are medicine. Your food is medicine. You are one of my favorite flavors of life. So thank you for being here. Thanks. And thank you all for tuning in. Don't you worry. Torrie will be back.
Bye.
Bye.